What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and this has been the week of epic dogfight battles. We've had a ton of Android devices in particular. We've had dogfight battles where you think one device is going to win, but one sneaks in and takes the cake. We've had some close calls. We've had some where they've been landslides. Ton of cool dogfight battles, and we're going to round it out this week with the HTC Inspire 4G and the Google Nexus S. Two awesome Android devices in their own right, one on AT&T, one on T-Mobile. Let's take a look at the keyboards, and the best way to do that is by jumping into messaging. And we'll see here, compose new message, and we'll do our typical quick brown fox. Now this is the Android keyboard. It's changed from what you remember on devices like the G2 and some of the other phones that have the Android keyboard, the default Android keyboard. This is what it looks like now, and then of course you have just that option on the Nexus S. Of course you can side load. It is an experienced device, so you can side load keyboard, side load anything, any other option that you want. So we'll see the quick brown fox is ready for the weekend. Can't type today. Weekend. I was trying to say the quick brown fox is ready for the weekend to come, but you have that in portrait or in landscape mode. I'm gonna wait for it to switch here. I don't know why it's not switching. Maybe I have portrait lock turned on. Let me double check. Because I'm not a big fan of portrait or auto-rotating the screen, so we'll auto-rotate, turn it back, jump back in here, bam! Okay, the quick brown fox is ready for the weekend. Portrait, landscape, you can see there, keys are a little bit larger, easier to type on, and the color scheme here is orange as opposed to green and some of the previous colors. Now on this one you get HTC's Sense keyboard, and it looks a little bit, I like the way the keys look, and obviously you have a larger display here, so that does make a difference, but I happen to enjoy the keyboard on this device. I think it's very easy to type on, and as with anything else, portrait and landscape. Now the difference here, there's no additional keyboard options, and you can't sideload applications without rooting the device. So you can't sideload something like a Motorola keyboard or the Android keyboard, you know, the Gingerbread keyboard, anything like that. So you are stuck with this if you want to keep this device in a non-rooted fashion, but you can use it in portrait and landscape, of course. And I happen to like it though. The quick brown, very easy to use. The quick Brisbane brown fox is a happy camper. Somebody asked me on YouTube, they said, how do you come up with these? I was like, I totally think of them as I'm typing. Like right now I just thought of that. The quick brown fox is a happy camper, and it must be because I'm a happy camper, but you can see quick, easy to type on, the keys are large, and there's enough spaces between them. They're maybe not as separated as the Nexus S. There's enough space between them to make it relatively easy to type on. Now when it comes to typing, or when it comes to just viewing the display in general, let's take a look at the browser, because it is particularly interesting, not just because of the screen size, but because of a couple of different things. They are both running Flash as a result of both having Android 2.2. We'll see here, jump into browser, and let's see. I won't lie though, that 4.3-inch display is appealing when it comes to the browser front. So we'll see, PhoneDog will load up on that. We'll get PhoneDog loaded up on this. And click. While that's loading up, it's coming up on here. It'll be an interesting test to see, just kind of an informal test to see which one loads a little bit faster. It looks like they're loading about the same time, even though I started this one earlier, or started this one later, excuse me. And you can see it's loading up the content right now. Not fully loaded, but let's take a look. The pinch to zoom. Okay, that's not a fair contest. It is a little bit slower, but we'll wait for that to fully load. Is it fully loaded now? We'll see. Yes, fully loaded now, so we can see pinch to zoom capabilities with the ads running in the background. Not bad. Not bad at all. You can see relatively easy. And then of course portrait and landscape, that's the difference there. Quick transitions and little to no lag on the pinch to zoom front. Now one thing I noticed, and you just saw me do it, the capacitive buttons down here are overly sensitive to me. Just very sensitive capacitive buttons. So I'll be scrolling in and out, and I'll do something like what I just did, where I'll accidentally hit the home button and it'll throw me back out. So something to keep in mind. I mean, you hit anything on the bottom of this display and you're most likely going to tap one of the capacitive buttons. Now this device, on the other hand, fully loaded, and you can see pinch to zoom is certainly pretty good on this one as well. Pinch to zoom reasonably fast. They've definitely improved on that over the first Android 2.2 devices that came out. Ads are running in the background. But you can see the real benefit of that 4.3-inch display. It is bigger. It is a little bit harder to hold in the hand. But you can see I'm viewing essentially the whole Phone Dog page, and I can kind of get an idea. I can't read the text, obviously, but I can get an idea of the layout of the page all from this large display. So I can scroll up and down through the news. I can scroll over to the people. You know, I can do that. Scroll in and out. Very easy and very responsive. Scrolling out that way. Tap. So all in all, very responsive. Transitions I find to be reasonably fast. Maybe a little faster on the Nexus S. But in terms of pinch to zoom, I'd have to give it a tie. I mean, there's no big difference to me on either one of these devices. Now, when you go into Windows, here's a little bit of a difference. Load up a second window, let's say Google, and then you go back to Phone Dog. You can see it's just in a list-like format there. Now, when you do this on the HTC device, I'm sorry, not add a bookmark. You go to Windows, load up a second window, you decide you want to go back to Phone Dog, we'll check our windows, and it presents some sort of image. So, you know, personal thing, very minor, but I happen to like that a little bit more, and that's one of those little browser quirks to me that makes HTC Sense a little bit more fun, a little bit easier to use than a stock version of Android. So jumping into the contacts menu for a few minutes, these are the differences between what it looks like to have Android 2.2 with a manufacturer installed overlay as opposed to a stock build of Android 2.3. You can see there aren't a lot of changes if you're familiar with what a vanilla Android 2.2 version looked like or looks like. Not a huge difference there between 2.2 and 2.3, but if you look at this, you can see quite a few customizations to the context menu across the board, but specifically to the context menu. You can see, for example, I pulled up Old Man, and I have call home, send message, ringtone, block caller, and then edit. You can edit the contact. What I really like about HTC Sense is that you can scroll this across, and it gives you quite a bit of information about the contact. For example, let's say Old Man Baker, and I have been text messaging all day long, and we can see the messages. We can go down through here. I can see the messages we've sent and received on one nifty little place. I can see the emails that we've sent back and forth. I can see updates and events between us. I can see the gallery, and then I can see the call history. So I'm like, okay, I need to call Mom. When did we last speak? When did she call me? When did I call her? Scroll over to call history, see that. When did we text message last? Scroll over to messages. So it's just a really organized, clean look to me, and I really like it a lot. Now here on the Android side, or on the stock Android side, you see I have that same phone number, but you can see how different it looks between the two. And of course, if I had a picture, it would pop up right there. I can set that contact as my favorite, or I can go down here and edit the contact, and here's what the fields look like. I can, select a picture. I can pick a phone number, email, the typical stuff, postal address, organization, birthdays by clicking on more, IM, notes, internet call, website, and more. So we'll go to, type in Old Man Baker works at Phone Dog, and so you can see that pops up under website. So it's just a very kind of raw look to it, not very polished as opposed to this where it is. So very clean, very good look to this. But then again, obviously there is that overlay. So I don't feel like it does this anymore. But some may be concerned, as opposed to a completely custom free build. There may be issues with slowing it down on the Inspire side. I haven't experienced a slowdown, but that may frustrate some people. Cameras, 5 megapixel on this, 8 megapixel on this one. Let's take a look really quickly. Now, the frustrating thing about both of these devices, neither have physical camera buttons, so you do have to autofocus in using your finger, and that's all well and good. In the comments, I get a hard time about this, but honestly, to me, I have shaky hands every now and again, especially when I'm taking a picture and the wind's blowing and things like that. So I want to make sure I get the best picture possible. And you can see this one just autofocuses without me doing anything. I can jump down in here, and it's gonna autofocus into that uniball, and I can snap the picture, and there it is. So 8 megapixels there. And on this one, 5 megapixels. And despite the fact that it is 5 megapixels, it's a very good camera. I think they do a great job. Both this and the Galaxy S line, great job on the camera. And you can see that pressing it, zooms it in, bam. So you look at these two side by side. Let me pull this one back up so you can see. There's no comparison to me. I think the HTC Inspire is the better camera. Now that said, don't let this sway your decision if you're debating between these two devices, because honestly, I think the picture quality between these two across the board is very good. So I mean, regardless, it's not far enough for me to say the Inspire and the Inspire all the way. Auto rotate that, I turn that back off. during the break. Let's go back into gallery, and let's do the camera shot so you can see it from an angle. And there you go. So you can see that, I think better quality, significantly better quality from the HTC Inspire 4G, but still a very good picture on the Nexus S front. So better picture quality. The colors look more real on this one to me, and just overall a better picture. Let's take a look at speed test, or quadrant standard rather, and then we'll jump into speed test before we sign off. Quadrant standard. And like I told you in a past video, I'm looking at some alternatives to quadrant standard. I've looked at Smart Bench and a couple of additional ones, so I'll make a final decision on that. Or who knows, I may mix it up depending on the video. Now, quadrant standard isn't officially supported. Android 2.3 is not supported by quadrant standard, rather, but we'll see what the score looks like just as a comparison. But take it with a grain of salt, as always. Call quality on both of these devices, very good. Earpiece is loud. I've had no issues. I think T-Mobile's data speeds, even with AT&T's 4G, they're significantly faster in the Charlotte area. And from what I've heard across major metro areas that have HSPA Plus across the nation, is significantly faster. So something to keep in mind there. If data is your thing, if that's what you're purchasing the device for, that's your primary purpose of using it, I think you'll find that the data speeds on the T-Mobile, the Nexus S is a little bit better. That said, call quality fantastic on both devices, and had no problem with reception. Took these to a dead spot, and a little bit choppy. This one was choppy. I couldn't hear the call on this one, but both maintained the call. So just to tell you, quadrant standard score is in on this one, and it's 1,709 on the Inspire 4G. So 1,709, and we'll wait for this one to finish up. Help me remember that. 1,709. I cracked myself up. And 1,383. So on the quadrant standard front, again, take it with a grain of salt. But between that, the Inspire 4G wins. Let's do a quick jump into speed test. Get these loaded up. Jump into speed test on this one. I want to take a look at the network speed test. Now, granted, it's about 3 o'clock and it's on a Friday afternoon, so my office is beside a major interstate, so something to keep in mind as well as you're browsing through, or as you're looking at these speed tests. The interstate is a little congested at the moment. All right, speed test. Sorry, I always like to cut the camera there because I don't want to waste time while the servers load up, but we're in Charlotte on both of these. Let's jump into the speed tests and see which one performs the best. Now, I have a feeling it's going to be T-Mobile. It has been for the past several dogfights, and sure enough, it looks like we're kicking up to about that 2,500 kilobits per second range, and then on the upload, about 1,200 kilobits per second, whereas this one, 1,932. So, it's not, in comparison to the two, not to say that these speeds are great by any means, but in comparison to these two and these two alone, kind of held its own. It's not too terrible. Let's jump into megabits per second so you can get a better idea. 1.89 as opposed to 2.47. Let's run one more test just to make sure. And while we're running that test, I'll declare the winner. As always, it's sometimes hard to make these dogfight. As always, it's sometimes. That didn't make any sense. But as always, it's hard to make a decision between these devices. Oftentimes, they're very close to each other. But I really have to give it to the HTC Inspire 4G this time around. A combination of excellent features. It's $100 at AT&T, and the Nexus S is actually $100 at Best Buy for the next 2 weeks as well. But given what you get, 4.3-inch display, super fast device. You can see my Twitter stuff coming out. Super fast device, 8-megapixel camera. I just have been very pleased with this device. Sense runs fantastically, and the new version of Sense is even better. So HTC Inspire 4G, I love the Nexus S. Still one of my favorite devices on the market, but between the two, I'd probably give a narrow edge to the HTC Inspire 4G. Much more coverage to come on PhoneDog.com with both of these devices. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. Give us that like, that thumbs up. We always appreciate it. We're starting a new giveaway, so be on the lookout for that in the coming days. Follow me on Twitter as well, PhoneDog_Aaron. Let me know what you think. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, see you next time.